Hello, how are you? Well, my name is Gerardo Matturro. I'm a professor and researcher in software engineering at Universidad Ort, Uruguay. First of all, I want to thank Professor Safai for inviting me to be a guest speaker in his class today. I will present to you the results of a study we conducted with a student of mine 2 years ago about the role of the product owner in a software development project managed by using the Scrum framework. Uh, this presentation is organized as follows. First, I will give you some background information about the Scrum framework. I explain to you the motivation for conducting this study and the purpose we define to it. Then I will present the methodological design and the main results we arrive after conducting the study. And finally, I will conclude, of course, with the conclusion of that study. Uh, as you may know, there are several definitions about what Scrum is. The one you are seeing in your screen is just one of those definitions. In Scrum mainly is an agile framework for managing projects, especially software development projects, that guide the teams in a process that is iterative and incremental. The Scrum framework defines several activities that team members should perform during project execution. Also define three artifacts for managing product and project information, and also define three roles. And one of those roles is precisely the role of the product owner. According to Scrum literature, a good product owner has many duties and many responsibilities, and in this study we focus on these three. First, a good product owner should have a deep knowledge about the business. That is, it should know about market conditions, competing products, and of course about customers and users or potential users of the products that will be developed. Also, a good product owner should be a visionary, that is, a person that can define the product vision and lead the team to achieve that vision. And finally, a good product owner should be empowered to make decisions about the product, about its features, and about the content and the ordering of the items in the product backlog. And choosing a good product owner is a key element in the formation of the team and also in the success of the project. But we are talking about a special kind of project, that is outsourced of subcontracted projects. That are projects in which a company, usually we name that the client, hires another company to carry out all or maybe a part of the software development activities. And in that cases, the question is that who should be the product owner in this specific kind of project? And literature says that in those cases, product owner should be a person from the company that is paying for the solution, that is the company that hires the another one for developing the product or the service that is required in that as a result of the project. However, in a previous study about the role of the product owner and how it is selected, we found that this recommendation is not usually followed by the companies. That is, in general, we found in that previous study that in those cases, the product owner is usually appointed by the subcontracted company and often without client participation. So with that, we define what is an external product owner. That is the product owner of a Scrum team that doesn't belong to the company that is paying for the solution, but belong to the supplier company that developed that solution. So with that situation, the purpose of our study was this one: so how or to what extent an external product owner in this kind of subcontracted project can fulfill his role according to the responsibilities and the duty we see a few minutes ago. That is, how the product owner learn about the business, how define the product vision, and how to make decisions about the product backlog. So, with that purpose, we define three main research questions for our study. The first one relates to how does an external product owner acquire the necessary business knowledge to perform his or her role. The second research question was about how involved is the external product owner in the elaboration of the vision of the product to be developed. And the third research question was about how empowered is an external product owner to make decisions, of course, about content and prioritization of the items in the product backlog. So to conduct the research, we performed semi-structured interview to key informant, that is, member of Scrum's teams that have performed or were performing the role of product owner in outsourced projects. The interview were recorded and transcribed for data extraction and further analysis. From that analysis, we found the following answers to the three research questions. For the first one, in the interview, we asked the interviewee about the action they took to acquire knowledge about the business and the techniques they used to learn about the business, to acquire that knowledge. And this is the extraction of the main part of their answers. As you may know, to acquire business knowledge is something that a person needs many years of working on that industry or on that company. There is something that you cannot know just by reading a book, for example. And if you see this, the way they say they acquire business knowledge is mainly by having meetings with the clients, and in two cases, the person that the product owner we interview has previous experience in working with the same client. And regarding the elicitation techniques, as you can see, writing user stories, interview with users, documentation analysis, observation, and so on, are most requirement elicitation techniques than techniques for learning about the business. Regarding the second research question, we asked the interviewee about who developed the product vision and about the degree of his or her participation in development that product vision. Here are some illustrative answers we extract from the transcription of the interview. For example, Sebastian says the directors and investors got together and blah 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 blah. They defined the product vision. For Bruno, he said that the product vision was established by the CEO of the organization. And Fabian has a better luck because he joined with the counterpart in the client to work together in defining the product vision. So how can we say from this illustrative answers? Well, that's the main or the answer to these research questions. According to all the interviewees, always is always the customer who define or has the responsibility to define the product vision, and only in 2 cases the external product owner has some kind of participation in elaborating that the product vision. Regarding the last research questions, we asked the interviewee about who proposed change to the contents of the product backlog and about who makes decision about priorities and changing items in that product backlog. And another illustrative answer from the interviewees. See what Marcelo said, the final decision is always made by the client. For Julieta, she said, well, we make suggestions, but they make a decision. They are the one who make decisions. They are the client. And for Fabian, more or less the same. Everything was always validated by them. Them, of course, again, the client. So, as a summary of the answers, we say that it's always the customer who proposes change to the product backlog, and more important is always the customer who make decisions about priorities and changes to the product backlog. So, how can we conclude about this study? Well, when the product owner of an outsourced project is a person that does not belong to the organization that contracts the development, that do not belong to the client, the main conclusions say that the product owner has no power to make decisions about content and prioritization of the product backlog. Regarding product vision, although the product owner has some kind of participation, it is usually the client who elaborates it and communicates it to the team, that is, someone from outside the team communicate the vision to the team. And finally, the product owner, in fact, does not acquire business knowledge, but rather product knowledge. The product backlog define the features the product has to exhibit to its users, and that's why we say the product owner doesn't acquire business knowledge but rather product knowledge. So finally, I mean the main conclusion of this study that in an outsourced software development project, the product owner doesn't perform as a true product owner, but rather as a traditional software requirement engineering. No? Uh, of course, from this study, we cannot say that this is always the case, but we found some evidence that in an outsourced software development project that is managed by using Scrum, the product owner is more than a label, than a true role. Well, that's all of my presentation. I hope you found it interesting and maybe useful for your future professional practice. Sorry about my English, and I hope we can meet together online, of course, in some moment in the future. Thank you again, thank you again to Farhad for giving me the opportunity to share with you this kind of work. Thank you and greetings from Montevideo.